All right, hit it. Welcome, Lawrence County. Yep, it's 5 o'clock, and it's time for the local law enforcement hour. This is your sheriff, John Myers, and our technical advisor, Maddie Hyde.
Hey, sir, how about you shut it? We're already live.
So kick back and stay tuned and enjoy the show. Everybody's getting fired. Can I fire everybody? I know I can fire you. I don't think I can fire everybody else, but I'm pretty sure I can fire you. I don't think anybody else.
You're live.
I am.
Yes, for a long time.
Hello, everybody. What is this, episode 5?
I believe so.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Because wasn't last week a do-over?
It was. It was episode 3 do-over.
But I've only been in here
No,
3 times, 4 times.
Yeah. So this is the 5th.
I don't think I've been in here 4 times.
Okay.
I don't. All right, everybody, so we're going to talk about the jail today. Everybody's favorite subject.
Yay.
I've got my favorite employee,
Absolutely.
my lieutenant slash jail administrator slash, what'd they call you when I took office?
Hitler.
That's why I hired you. You remember the first time we met?
At the ball field.
Yeah, we'll get back to that in a minute. That's
Okay.
a pretty funny story. Yeah, you need to put that up there. Lower it down. You're shorter than
We
I am.
already had this conversation, Susan.
I know.
Sammy. Is it Samantha
Yep.
Colombo?
Name. Yep.
The most unique name at the sheriff's department.
Is that true?
People say, I bet you're not from around here.
Mm-hmm. Then they say, you know that show, that old show? And I'm like, what? And they're like, you know, the detective one? I'm like, yeah, but I really don't.
Mm-mm.
Before my time.
You are, bear with me. This isn't my writing. This is your writing. This ain't my writing. If this was my writing, I could read it. Reentry case manager.
Yes.
Tell us what reentry case managers do.
We help individuals with mental health, getting their license back, rehabs, housing, clothes, connection to services, linkage to resources, all the good stuff that people need when they go to jail.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot. Even though I know you don't do all that, but it
Oh,
does
thanks.
sound like a lot.
Thanks.
Susie Pruitt, how are you today?
I'm fine.
Glad you came all the way over here from Mont Eagle.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for being here. You are the director of the reentry program, so
I
you're
am.
kind of Sammy's boss.
Well, if she had a boss, yes.
She don't have a boss?
No, she's pretty independent.
That's BS. You should have a boss.
She likes to say she's our coworker and not our boss.
So if I had a complaint, could I go through you?
Yeah, you won't have one with her.
You're going to complain about me on the radio?
I tell people all the time, if you want to complain on me, sit down and have that conversation with yourself. Because,
Exactly.
yeah,
Lord.
because you are my boss. Let's talk about the jail, Susan. You know, I get asked all the time about the jail. That's probably one of the biggest subjects that I have to address on a day-to-day basis, and especially during budget time, which we're in budget time right now. And I'm trying to get comfortable. Bear with me. So when we took office in 2018, we had roughly, did we have 300?
We had about 325 around in that area.
We had about 325, and our capacity is 265.
261.
261. All right, and that's including the old jail too.
Mhm.
And that's 34 beds back there, right? I'm pretty sure it is because I used to work there.
I have to get on my fingers and count this up.
Unless something's changed, you got 12 in the bullpens, and then you had the women's cells, which housed 4, I think, 2 max cells, and then you had 2 or 3 max cells. So you had 24, 34, yeah, Yeah, there's 34. And then we've got, then our what I call our new jail is broke down into pods, right?
Yes.
And how many beds are in each pod? Come on, you've been there for like 20
Yeah, I
years.
know. I don't go around counting beds all the time. I'd have to get my calculator
Stumped
out
her.
on this.
I stumped her on the first question
Yeah,
about the jail. Well, I'm thinking if you divide, how many pods we got?
Well,
Well, we got two separate pods. We got a felony pod and a misdemeanor pod. Then we got a female pod,
I got you.
which the males is alike and the females is not.
You got your hand raised like
But
you want.
no, I was just gonna insert. But if you go in the back, like there's 6 different pods, different rooms.
Right.
So 84 in each pod.
84.
Yeah.
And if you've never been in our jail, and I tell people this, if you've never been in our jail, come do a jail tour, because it's nothing like what you would think it would be.
No.
I can remember the first time I went in the jail, and I call it a mini prison. That's what I call it, because that's what it looks like. It's not like the old jail, which is still part of the jail that we use. We just house all of our work release in there, right?
Yes.
Nobody that's not work release sleeps in the old part, the old jail, right? Everybody's either trustee status or
Yeah.
work release status or something. But I tell people all the time, and especially the listeners out there, that if you want to see something that you're not expecting to see, come to the jail and do a tour. Because everybody that comes back there, and I've taken a lot of people back there, especially since the election last year, they're all amazed at how it's set up. Number one, how it looks. Number two, how professional everybody is, how everybody knows what they're doing, and it's really cool. I didn't expect it the first time I went back there, but I hadn't been all the way back there until I took office in 2018. But anyway, so we had 300, and we was over 300, and we got 261 beds. So we had about 40 something sleeping in the floor. And at one point, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't we borrowing mattresses from another jail?
Yeah, we had to borrow because we had so many people coming in.
We had so many, and that was directly related to our zero tolerance policy that we put in. That's when we were arresting everybody that had any kind of Schedule II drugs or drug paraphernalia. We brought them to jail, and they had to post bond. We wasn't citing anybody for Schedule II. We was bringing everybody to jail. And then COVID in 2020 changed our jail drastically, right?
Yes.
Tell everybody what happened.
A lot of the judges were postponing trials, so they were giving lower bonds. Some of the attorneys, people with major health issues, they were getting them out because everybody was scared of what their health conditions would be.
Mm-hmm.
So they were more lenient on bonds lowering and helping people get out.
A lot of RORs, a
Yeah.
lot of probation reinstated, a lot of early releases on time served.
A lot more citations given for simple possession and
That was
driving on
that was a
revoked.
policy that we had to change. We had to go from arresting everybody that had drugs or drug paraphernalia to just writing a citation for a felony amount of drugs during COVID. When the governor handed down all those executive orders, and then our Sixth Circuit handed down all of the stuff from the court system, we, in 6 months, I think it was about 6 months, wasn't it? Maybe it was a year, between 6 months and a year, we went from the 330s to the 120s.
Yeah.
So that tells you how many inmates got released and went back to their same old, But so we went from 120. Where are we at right now?
We're at 191.
We haven't been above 200 since COVID, have we?
No, we have not.
Mm-mm. Of course, we got new judges now too, and we've got some new people in place. We have some new ADAs in place, but I don't know. I mean, I haven't kept up with the court system so much here of late about if they're doing anything different, but I'm hearing some talk that
You have programs now in your jail.
Well, I do.
That helps a little bit.
I would like to think that it does.
It does.
Some of our stuff that we you know, what is our percent? What would you say our percentage is? Say we have 20 people, and when we're kind of getting off track on some of the work programs, but say we have 20 people go through, what is it, life skills. Is that one of them that I saw on here? What was?
I mean, we have lots of life skills classes, job readiness, high set's one of them, so they can get their GED. A lot of people don't have their high school diploma. I mean, that increases their income by what?
$10,000 a year.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's huge.
Do y'all keep up with your percentages? For example, how many's going through the program and how many come back to jail? The recidivism rate?
Yes. And also, your jail management system does that too. But yes, we have our own system that does that.
Right on.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we didn't have in place, that we put in place after 2018, was our work release program.
Yes.
Now, we've always had inmates. Let me back up. I got to tell a quick story. This is what I was talking about, Sammy, how I get off on either a rant or a story. So when I got elected in 2018, I had the mindset that you could lock up everybody that committed a criminal act and you could fix the problem. I had never been in the position of saying, well, maybe this guy deserves a break. Maybe we should get him some education, or maybe we should help him out financially or something. I was a lock him up, throw away the key, let the judicial system fix him.
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
What was it we talked about at lunch?
The first time that I met you and I asked what your dream about programs was, you looked at me and you said, well, do you have a class that teaches them not to be criminals?
I didn't remember that, but that sounds like something I would say.
You did.
Well, and that's, I had never been on this side of the fence. And of course, methamphetamine kind of changed a lot of that way of thinking too, because I had meth addicts telling me that, look, I cannot physically get off this drug on my own.
Right.
I cannot do it. It's not physically possible for me to do it. I have to have help. And when you keep locking people up and they keep getting released and they keep committing the same crimes and they keep coming back to jail, you start to realize that you're not, it's like my papa used to say, it's like trying to push a rope uphill.
right.
Yeah.
You know? But anyway, after I got in office and I seen that we can help these people, because like what we talked about at lunch too, they're all going to get out. 90% of them are going to be back out on the streets. Do we want them better when they get out, or do we want them worse? So anyway, we started taking a long look at the programs, and you were kind of like me too. You were kind of like, yeah.
Oh,
no,
yeah,
no.
Susan.
Little Hitler was like, nah, we don't need that. We'll just lock them up. But I think me and you both started to realize that it wasn't working, and so we had to at least try. Now, my mindset is, I'll give you some help one time, and I'll probably give you some help twice if you fall off the wagon. But really, the third time's kind of it for me. You know, if you do it again, then I'm gonna let the court system fix you.
Well, I think the way that we view it is every time they come in, we're giving them, it's like you're planting sunflower seeds, right? Every time they come in, you're planting a seed. So if they take a job readiness class, okay, they learned one thing. Then the next time they come in, they take seeking safety. They learn one more thing. Well, eventually, you have all of these skills, and you're building yourself up. Things that make you employable, things that give you confidence, things that are helping your mental health. And eventually, hopefully, they all come together, and you stay out of jail. That's just the end goal, is that we want all their skills to come together and make a perfect present.
I get that.
At the end.
And I agree with you pretty much 98%. There are some mean freaking people back there
Sure.
that don't deserve nothing but to stare at four walls the rest of their days.
Yep.
And let me weigh in on that. That's something that we realize, and I think a lot of the meetings that we go to, some of the people want everybody furloughed. They want everybody in treatment. There's some people that need to stay in jail. There's some people that need to go to prison, and they need to stay there forever. And you just got to know your limits. But most of the folks that are going to get out and they're going to come back to our community, if we can make them safer, if we can make them healthier, then everybody wins with that. But you're right. There are some people that do not need to get out of jail.
I agree. And talking about our work release program, what we implemented early was which again, we've always had inmate labor. But when we took office, when we took a look at that program, we realized that we needed to make some changes to that also. Not pointing any fingers, but I think we all know the last administration, that was part of the legal battle that they had to deal with, was inmate labor. And I thought, and you probably don't remember this conversation, you might, but I thought I could go back there on day one after taking office and say, hey, look, if you want to eat today, get your boots on. You're going to go out and pick up garbage or cut ditches. And you remember what you told me?
I can't remember. They probably wouldn't be.
You said that's a great idea if you want to be in federal court in the morning. Because I didn't know TCI. I didn't know TCI set the rules on inmate labor. I didn't know that there was state laws regarding inmate labor. I didn't know all that. I mean, say an inmate, say somebody comes in to do 3 years, nonviolent offender, no victim. So, for example, selling methamphetamine, he's got to do 3 years. Can he go out on work release?
He can.
What's the rules? What's the rules? I want people to know why we can put somebody on work release and why we can't put somebody on work release.
Well, we're not going to put anybody that's, of course, sex offenders are not going on work release. There's a long list as far as robberies, murder charges, and plus, if they're not going to be an example in jail, if they're getting in trouble, disciplinaries, they're not going to go on work release. They have to work their way up. They have to have a job inside the jail before they're allowed to go out. But, I mean, they've got to go by the rules in jail before we'll let them out on a work program.
Building that trust.
Yeah.
So the number one thing you look at when you need somebody to go out on a work program is, are they sentenced, right?
Yes.
They have to be sentenced. They can't be pretrial.
No.
And okay, so what if they've got cases in different courts? Say they've got something pending in sessions, but they got sentenced in circuit, or vice versa.
Yeah, if we don't have anybody, then usually we'll let them work in-house, partially sentenced.
I got you. So number one, they have to be sentenced. Number two, they can't have any violent felonies or aggravated felonies. Am I right in saying that?
Some aggravated there's actually a code for it of all the charges, and I don't have that in front of me, but we pull their background, so we know from the very first time they got arrested and what the outcome of each charge. So we go back through their full criminal history of what's been done.
Right.
So if we have somebody that's come in jail 10 times and 5 times he brought drugs into the jail, then we're not going to put him on work release.
Right.
Because he's going to bring drugs back into the jail.
So number one, they have to be sentenced. Number two, they can't have any aggravated or violent felonies on their record. Number three, they have to kind of work their way up, right?
Yes.
Don't we kind of give them a chance as like working in the kitchen or working in the laundry room or something and see
Yeah.
how they do first?
Yeah, and we actually have, we call them pod rocks. So inside the cells, they do most of the cleaning and on a daily basis.
I got you. And be able to pass random drug screens.
Yes.
So they have to pass a drug screen right off the bat too, right?
Yes.
If you go back there and you say, "Hey, I'm gonna pull you out and put you in the laundry room," we give them a drug screen right then.
Yes.
I got you. And so once they now this is just our inmate labor program. This isn't the paid work release. This is the inmate labor program. We have inmates that go to the dump every day
Yes.
and to the Public Works
Public Works.
here inside the city. Where else?
The Parks and Rec.
Isn't there 4 of them? We don't go to the God Storehouse anymore.
No, we don't go to God's Storehouse.
Okay.
The
Dog
shelter.
Pound.
Yeah. Dog pound.
Do what?
The Dog Pound.
There you go. And we'll sometimes pull, if we have a special project, if somebody, like the shelter, I'm glad you brought that up. The shelter was one that they needed some help with remodeling the shelter building. We was able to So, and it has to be what, a nonprofit?
Yes.
Is that right? I get asked a lot from business owners and people out in the county wanting to know if we can provide them with inmate labor. And I always tell them, you got to let me do some checking. I never commit and say, oh yeah, we can do that. I always say, let me do some checking first and I'll get back with you. Because you got to be careful.
Yes.
Because if you use inmate labor the wrong way, you're going to be getting a visit from somebody with a gold badge and a subpoena in their hand. And I don't want that. But that's our inmate labor program, and we have how many going out on that? 20 something?
Yes. 24.
24. Aside from that, we have our paid work release. What's the difference? Explain the difference.
The difference is they've actually had to make it through every step, and they have absolutely gotten no trouble. They've took some kind of program. Either it could be they attend church on a regular basis, or they've got their GED or TCAT program. We try to see the ones that's actually taking an initiative to better themselves, because that's who is going to succeed more in that program.
And we have, what, 2 or 3? We have 3 businesses right now, local businesses, that accept our work release program, and that's ADS here in town,
Southern Craft.
Southern Craft in Loretta, and then the hotel, the Best Western, is getting one of our female inmates up there to help. So
Yes.
how many do we have on that?
We have 9 total.
And that they're actually paid.
Yes, they
The
do.
company they work for pays them. And how does that work? How does that pay work? And how do we charge a fee to be on a program that covers the drug screens and the GPS bracelet and
Yeah, they pay $25 a day, so it depends on if they go out 4 days or 5 days is what they get charged, and 25% comes out of their paycheck for their court fees and fines.
what about if they have a suspended license and they owe money on their tickets and stuff? Do we do that too?
We do. We go back and pull all the citations that they need to pay off to get the driver's license, and then we actually send the reinstatement fee to the state so they can, when they get out, then all they have to do is go get their picture and get their driver's license.
It's good. And we've only had a couple of inmates screw up on that program, if I remember correctly, right?
We had quite a few right off the bat, but after we got all the kinks worked out, then I really can't remember the last time that somebody actually got laid down. for
Well,
the job.
I made a surprise visit one day and caught one working with some meth in his pocket.
Oh, Lord.
It's
yeah.
been over a year ago.
Yeah, it's been over
Maybe
a year
and
ago.
half
And
actually.
yeah, he got kicked off the program, and then we sent him to prison.
Mhm.
But it's such a great deal. I mean, I'm thinking if I had screwed up and I was in jail And I knew that if I kept my nose clean, there was a chance that I could get a job while I was in jail and get paid and do my time and get out and not owe nobody nothing. Have all my restitution, my fines, my court costs, have my drivers. All I got to do is go get my license, and I'm right back. And they get to keep their job.
Yes.
The employers tell them, say, you get out of jail, you still got your job, just keep coming. And, such a great program.
Yeah. And
But-
our employers that take these guys, they are really hands-on and trying to help these guys. So, I mean, they are going above and beyond to help them. And, I'm grateful for them for allowing them to come and work.
Didn't we have one, and you probably know his name, didn't he save up like enough money to buy a house?
He did.
Yeah.
He actually made $78,000 in a year.
There you go. Come out. And
We've
was it-
actually had two that's purchased houses while they were incarcerated.
Yeah. So we're doing all we can on that part. Our problem with that program is we don't have enough people that fit the criteria. Not yet. I mean, we've got 9 going out right now. That's pretty good. But I would love to have 29 going out because it's such a good program. It helps the employer, it helps the inmate, and it works. I mean, being able to save up enough money to buy your own house when you get out is a pretty good deal.
Well, and Susan cares a lot about what happens to them after they get out. So she helps them pay their fines down, get their license back. I mean, without her, that stuff would not get done. So.
We got to buy her lunch tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
I like steak.
Medium rare. So something else that we did early in 2019 was I wanted as many faith-based programs and educational programs in the jails we could get. And I know it's put a little bit of a workload on the COs back there, but I think it's a good thing, and I think it works. So talk a little bit, Susie, Sammy, y'all talk a little bit about what we've been able to put in place since we got y'all on board. Let's talk about the grants and how it's saving taxpayer dollars, and how it's not dipping into local taxpayer dollars, and how it's reducing recidivism, and how it's making our town safer. Let's talk about all this because, I don't want to go through all this and sit here and pick your brain. So there's your paper. Knock it out.
Wow. So we work for South Central Tennessee Workforce Alliance. So through our organization, we have state and federal grants, and that's the whole reason that we're in all of these jails helping inmates. So we started 3 years ago in Lawrence County on the Pathway Home Grant, which is a federal U.S. Department of Labor grant. So within, 6 months of release, we enrolled them in this program and helped them get their GEDs. We helped them try to get their license back. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through to do that sometimes. But making sure that they're ready to get a job. We help buy them clothes. We help take them to rehabs if they need that. We've driven all over Tennessee, I feel like, bringing people to rehabs, bringing people to work, helping them get to the job center to get jobs. So
Now y'all are just not in Lawrence County. How many counties are y'all involved with?
Right now, we're in the 22nd Judicial District, which is 4 counties, the 32nd Judicial District, which is 3 counties, and as of July the 1st, we'll be adding 2 counties in East Tennessee.
Right on.
So 9 total as of July.
So do y'all actually work for the state?
No, it's a nonprofit. South
gotcha.
Central Tennessee Workforce Alliance is a nonprofit.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right on.
Yeah.
but we have state and federal grants that we're given. So that's how we do all this stuff.
Well, these are competitive grants that we apply for,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
So we've gotten, let's see, Department of Labor was a federal grant.
Yep.
The Second Chance Act is a BJA federal grant. We got a VOCA grant, Victims of Crime Act, a state grant, and then in July we will have the Justice Assistance Grant, which actually the county, Lawrence County, applied for, and is going to subcontract with us.
And these are this is totaling up to millions of dollars,
Yes.
right?
It is.
That goes towards what exactly? So when you come to Lawrence County Jail and there is, say, 10 inmates that you think, is there a vetting process or is there an application process? How do you pick and choose which inmates?
Really, I mean, we rely on the jail for a lot of that to help figure out who's a good fit for what. And we have to anyway, because some people don't get along with others. So we just have to make sure that we're safe while we're doing it.
So you come in and sit down with Susan and her XO, Jacobs.
Yeah, they have a
Yeah.
list, and we
Yeah.
try to find the compatible ones because we don't want a fight breaking out because somebody
Yeah.
Right,
owes somebody or whatever beef they might have.
right.
And some of the grants have criteria that needs to be met, like the Department of Labor grant, employment is their focus. So if you're not within 6 months of release, then you're not eligible for the money and pathway home. The Victims of Crime Act grant, you have to have suffered, you had to have been a victim of a crime, either raped or sexually assaulted, or some sort of trauma in your life, which is most of the people in the facilities.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So is this like a 5-day a week thing? I know we have a girl that comes in and teaches. Does she teach all that, or does she teach some of it? She's kind of in the beginning phases of it right now, right?
Yeah, so through the OCJP grant that Lawrence County got, that grant has a instructor and also the TCAT classes that come in. So with the TCAT classes, they go through 10 weeks of certified production technician, and then they can move on to now welding or plumbing, since Lawrence County added that. So it's giving inmates a great opportunity to be really employable when they get out with a trade. And that's totally paid for by the grant, so they don't walk out with student loans that they can't pay or anything of that sort. So.
And that's covering her salary.
Mm-hmm.
So again, taxpayer dollars, local taxpayer dollars. It's not costing the county a penny to have this girl teaching these classes to these inmates.
And as of July 1st, what Lawrence County is going to end up with is a part-time therapist to do trauma-based therapy in your facility. Because some people can leave for treatment with alternative sentencing, but some people need to have their treatment in the jail. So you're going to have a part-time therapist dedicated to Lawrence County. You're going to have a part-time case manager dedicated to Lawrence County. Then under the OCJP grant, you've got the full-time instructor you were talking about. Under the Second Chance Act grant, you're going to have another part-time case manager and a part-time therapist, probably somebody that can do testing, A&D assessments, that kind of stuff that'll come when they're needed. You also have adult education through South Central Tennessee Workforce Alliance. So Lawrence County is a certified testing facility for the HiSET test, the high school diploma equivalency test, and you have that instructor that comes 2 days a week. So as of July 1st, you've already got a whole bunch of this, but you're really going to be set to make a difference when the new fiscal year gets here.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
Yay.
How are we on manpower?
Short.
Sounds like we need to hire a few more.
But honestly, every time I go in the jail, the staff is just always willing to help. It's great. Just anything we need. It doesn't matter how short they are. They're like, give me 10 minutes, I'll be right back. And they do. So they're accommodating, and I think that's a big factor is the corrections officers want to see the changes in the inmates also. I had one giving me names the other, put him in your class, this would be awesome for him. I'm like, this is great. Like, that's what we want.
How many have we had get their high school diploma?
I think about 24. 24 in the last 3 years, which is huge because it is not an easy test. Everybody that's graduated high school, we're like, yeah, whatever. It's just easier to stay in school. But, some people just don't, and it is hard. That math is hard. You go back and you're like, what? I can't even remember seeing any of this.
I had trouble with my daughter's 5th grade math.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I
hard.
can't
It's just,
imagine.
it's stuff we don't use every day. So we just see it and we're like, what the heck? But they do it. They study and they go to class and they want to get it. And then we have graduations for them. They get to wear the cap and gown, so they're not missing out on anything. I mean, it works.
What about the girl that we had had that graduation ceremony for last year, the year before?
In front of the cherry tree.
Has anybody kept up with her?
Yep, I have. She's doing well.
Good for her.
She's doing well.
Good for her.
And that's another piece of what we do is we try to follow them at least a year after they are released from jail. Because, you know, in that first year, they can have a lot of problems. And so we try to step in and refer them to programs or whatever we can do to help them. So we try to stick with them after they get released.
Do you see anything else that, in your mind, that we need, that we're lacking, that something that we need to offer that we haven't? Anything? Anything come to mind?
You need more trauma therapy.
Yeah.
The research is showing us that trauma is the gateway to addiction. I think we can all agree that addiction's your biggest problem with most of the crime that you have. And 12-step programs are great, rehabs are great, but for a lot of these folks, I would say for most of them, you've got a mental health issue that began all of this, that came from a trauma. And so if you just are treating the addiction, all you're doing is treating the symptoms. You're just Band-Aiding the problem. And as soon as they get out and have something else happen to them, then they're going to be right back in the same situation.
I don't have, and I'm wondering if we can find this percentage somehow. I would like to know, just so I can put it out there, what percentage of people come into our jail have some kind of mental problem? Just a ballpark. What would you say? I mean, you're back there a lot more than I
if
am.
we're considering that that's why they turn to drugs, then it's going to be around 90% or more.
Well, I mean people that come in, people that physically have a mental issue when they come in that jail. I mean, I was back there Thursday or Friday, and I think we had 3 or 4 up front in the holding cells. And I don't want to say it was comical, but it wasn't. It kind of was, but it was because one of them was screaming something across the hall to the other one in the other cell, and they were having a full-blown conversation with themselves, but they thought that they were arguing with each other, but they were talking to themselves, and it was a little bit funny. But anyway, so how many you think walk through those jail doors have some kind of
With
a
a
mental?
legit mental illness, I would say we have.
Half.
I know 5. Like, it's hard to handle right now. But I mean, there's more mental illness than just that. They're just harder.
Susie, is there any studies on addiction? What addiction does to your mental status?
Yes, addiction really messes up the neural network in your brain, and so you really have to reprogram folks. Is one of the things that you have to do.
Is it fixable? Is the long-term effects fixable?
You can make a lot of progress. I'm not going to say you're ever going to get back to 100%, depending on what you've used and how long you've used, but it takes a long time. I think it takes sometimes years to get back to functioning like you were before, or at least as close to that as you can get. And my background is in mental health. I'm a licensed psych examiner for the state of Tennessee, and I worked at Middle Tennessee Mental Health for years. And when we stopped housing people at the mental hospitals, most of them ended up in jails or under bridges. So when I walk into any county jail and start meeting with people, I see those folks that, they remind me of the folks that were at Middle Tennessee Mental Health when I worked there years ago. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a really high percentage of and again, the trauma. We do the ACEs study, the Adverse Childhood Experiences. We do that survey, and I think, I didn't bring that data with me, but best I can remember, the average ACEs score for the Lawrence County Jail the last time we did it was like 5.5 out of 10. So you've got 10 questions that ask about childhood trauma, and most of your inmates are going to answer at least 5 of those things on that list happen to them. That's pretty significant. I would imagine you and I would have close to 0, 1 score, okay? And they've got 5, the average. That's pretty hefty.
I seen a local person out in front of the jail week before last, I think it was, and I knew this person. This person's been getting locked up since the 90s, but I mean they didn't have any money. I mean they were addicts, but when you would see them when they were clean, they were normal. But I saw this person the other day, and they're not normal anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they've probably done something to their brain with all the drugs. Is that why she's messed up now?
Probably.
Is because it's damaged. What does it do to damage the brain?
Well, it messes up the way your brain functions. You know, the way that when you've got neurons in your brain that information travels through, and you've got different parts of your brain that are, you know, responsible for memory and emotion and those kinds of things. And so when you take those drugs, it's altering your mental state, and it will alter it so that that's the way it works, you know. And you can retrain it to a certain point, and you can gain some of that capacity back, but you've got to do a lot of things to do that. That's why the new research is showing us that resilience building is very important with addiction treatment. So getting your high school diploma, getting some sort of education, building your self-efficacy, your self-confidence, you know, reading, those kinds of things, that helps your brain go back to more of a normal state. And, you know, like we talk about with kids, their prefrontal cortex is where you make the decisions. That's not 100% developed until you're 25. So if you're 20 years
Not even
old,
25.
yeah, I mean, she's just barely there.
I can't even believe we hired
I
her.
think my
know.
brain is developed very
It's not even-
nicely.
she's not even developed.
You're ahead of your group, okay? But if you've got a person that's really doing a lot of drugs before their brain is completely developed, you're probably not going to get that ever fixed. You know, it's pretty significant what it does to you. And again, it depends on what kind of drugs you're using.
Is there any training out there for law enforcement that helps us tell if somebody is on drugs or if they have a medical problem?
I think so. One of our full-time therapists from another county, she attended, I think it was the CIT training. I don't remember what that stands for. But
Crisis intervention.
yeah, and I think that is for law enforcement. It's a TCI class. I don't know if you guys had anybody go to it or not, but they started having it periodically. And so you get CIT certified, and that's the big thing about it, is to help them figure out, you know, how to handle those mental health situations. And we see that on TV all the time.
Well, we're mandated in our 40 hours in service every year, mental health along with child sex abuse. But I don't know, I mean,
I think this is a more focused thing because you get a certification at the end. I know that we had several officers from a few counties that we work in that went to that CIT training. So that's probably something you want to investigate.
does our COs don't have to do any follow-up mandated yearly training, do they?
They do 40 hours every year.
And is it child sex abuse and mental health, is that mandated in it?
I mean, we do some mental health, but TCI puts on an in-service, and then basically we choose what other classes we're going to attend. We do CPR and first aid, and just whatever's available for that year.
I got you.
And programs. Susan and I went to a programs training
Yes, we
together.
Programs training.
Yep. How can we assess inmates? So
Did you get a certification?
I did.
Yeah.
Got a paper?
Not yet.
me either. Waiting on it.
Not in my email.
Well, I mean that's some good stuff. What else have we done in the jail? I'm sitting here trying to think. I mean, I know we spent $260,000 on our video system. Didn't we spend $200 at first and had all new cameras and wiring, and then we done a $60,000 upgrade for some software stuff. We got a body scanner although it's not functioning right now, right?
No, it's not.
We got that included with a deal. The company that provides our telephone service in our jail provided that, right?
Yes.
We got to get that fixed. What else did we do?
Why don't y'all talk more about the welding program y'all got going on for inmates? I feel like that's a
Is that
huge
TCAT?
deal. Yeah.
TCAT?
Yeah.
What do you know about it?
Oh, well, we just got 2 people that's graduated, and we've got one already in a paid job. So the second one hopefully will be here shortly. He'll be in a paid job, and we've got one that's fixing to start Tuesday. So he'll be in it for about 5 weeks, and then he'll graduate from it.
Explain TCAT. What is it? I just know it's something that we got some money for to teach inmates some stuff.
Certified production technician, that's 10 weeks, so they have to go through that first. And Susan helps out with who would be a good fit for all that. And then TCAT Pulaski has someone that they have hired to teach the class. So coming up, Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're going to have the CPT class in the jail and the welding program going on at the same exact time. So there will be 2 instructors, one off jail site and one inside the jail, teaching classes at the same time. So once they go through that, they're eligible for the welding program, which then they get a certification for, and you're eligible for a lot more jobs after that.
Now they don't have to be sentenced to go through the TCAT program, right?
No, they do not.
So realistically, if you're in here on multiple charges and they're non-aggravated and non-violent, and you're still waiting with our super awesome fast court system that we have in Tennessee, if somebody would have told me that which I understand we had COVID and it backed up the court system, and I know we're still dealing with the back up from COVID, even though it's been going on 3 years. It's frustrating for me, and I know it is for you, when you look at our classification sheet and you see how many inmates we have and what percentage are pretrial. What is it right now?
It's 72 and 44. We got 72 misdemeanors. That's pretrial, and 72 pretrial felons.
So 72 and 44. 72 and 44.
116.
She's my she's my math guru, and you're slipping.
I'm sorry.
My technician over here is. So yeah, you might as well say it's 60-something%, right? 60-something% out of our inmate population is pretrial, and we can't work them. We can't put them on any work release programs, but we can put them
through GED and TCAT, so they can get it started. And thankfully, we're getting the 2 instructors, because after they had to have the 10-week class to be able to go to the welding or plumbing, and they were actually going to have a gap. So now they won't have no gap, that they'll have the flip-flop. So that's going to be good that we'll have that. And hopefully after the 10-week course, they'll be sentenced and they'll be able to get a job after they take the plumbing or the welding class.
Years ago, when I worked in the jail, before you were born, I think.
You're not that old, are you?
Yeah.
Lord.
92-ish?
Goodness.
92? Where was you at in 92?
I wasn't even thought of in 92.
No, I started in 92, and I worked in there 3 years. And a lot of times when an inmate come down from court that had been sentenced, he would have a judgment, or they would bring a judgment with them. And the judge would write on his judgment to serve 6 months to be allowed on work release. And it was real simple back then. The employer would come in the morning and say, "Hey, I'm here to pick up so-and-so," and I'd give him a clipboard, and he would sign off, put the information on the clipboard, and I'd go back there and get him and bring him up, and he'd leave with him. And then he'd bring him back. I think the cutoff was maybe 5 or 6 o'clock sometime in the evening, maybe a little bit later. And he'd bring him back, and he'd sign them back in, and he went out every day, and he worked. I've seen that a lot. And I don't know why they changed that. I don't know when they changed that. Was it like that when you first started in the jail?
When I first started, but the people were being seen outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
Is what they were doing. They were
Oh,
leaving work early, and then it was too hard to keep up. And
I had a guy come in from work release one time, walked into the jail, and he blew a .33 on the intoximeter. A 33, and he walked in.
He was busy.
I said, what'd you do? And he said, I've been working, man. I said, yeah, you've been working, all right. A 33. He blew a 33 on the intoximeter, and he walked into the jail. That was pretty impressive. We about ready to wrap it up? How much time we got?
We have about 3-4 minutes left.
Oh, well, you want to tell? What you want to tell a story?
tell a story. Not really, but
you want to tell everybody about the inmate we had in jail, what they were doing to the inside of the cell?
I think you need to be a little bit more specific than that.
yeah. Which one was that?
One of the crazies up front.
Well, we've had people smear poop, and I mean, there's a lot of scenarios going there. I don't know which.
What did we do? What did we do with the piece of garbage that attacked our CO up in the courthouse?
He is in River Bend Maximum Security Prison.
Good. It's where he needs to be. It's where he needs. Well, he needs to be somewhere else, but I'll settle for that right now. Is the Shelby County jail still taking people?
Not that I know of.
What is that?
I don't have anybody there. He's in Davidson County.
Isn't there a big one out west somewhere?
There is.
That's Memphis.
Yeah, I know, but because we were told, remember when we were told when I went to that new sheriff's training and you went with me right after we took off, or right before we took, whenever it was, right after the election, and they talked about that jail over there. I thought they said it was a county jail, but it was one of the biggest facilities in the state, Shelby County.
That's Shelby County, yeah.
Yeah.
But isn't there a state prison over
West-
there somewhere?
West 10.
What's
West Tennessee State Penitentiary is over there. Like right above Memphis, Shelby County.
Well, we had an inmate that just got out about 2 or 3 months ago, and I seen him at a local business, and as soon as I saw him, I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know if he's going to say something good or bad. And he saw me, and he started walking over to me, and he put his hand out for me to shake his hand. I shook his hand, and he said, I just want to let you know. He said, you ain't going to see me anymore up there. And I said, well, that's good. I'm glad. But he had been to that prison out west, wherever it's at, and he said he would never go back to jail for fear of going back to that prison. He said it broke me, and he did. He looked broke because he wasn't as big as that microphone stand right there, and he's a big guy. He was a big guy when he went to prison, and when he come home, he was tiny. Are we done? We wrapping it up? This was a great show, y'all. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for letting us.
Thanks.
Let's we need to put this all out there.
Go team.
See y'all next week.